Look at her, Arthur. She's staring into that screen like she's solving the Riemann hypothesis. It's just an app, for goodness sake. She wasted a $200,000 degree on this digital heir. The hook was delivered by my mother, Ilara, her voice a sharp, audible whisper of judgment that cut through the polite murmur of the holiday reception. My father, Arthur Vance, 62, the patriarch and CEO of Vance Legal Group, didn't bother to look my way. His silence was far heavier than Ilara's contempt. I am Anya Vance. I am 29 years old. The object of my intense focus, the digital heir my mother dismissed, was Synergy Dynamics, the algorithmic scheduling and team efficiency platform I had founded and quietly run for the last 4 years. To them, my MIT degree in computational science was a prestigious waste, sacrificed on the altar of a frivolous tech project. The context and character intro placed me firmly outside the Vance ecosystem. The Vances valued tangible assets, billable hours, and the rigid, measurable success of corporate law. My brother Marcus, 33, was the golden heir, a rising partner at Dad's firm, a living testament to the proper use of an elite education. I, the digital outcast, worked remotely, lived in a functional, minimalist city loft, and deliberately maintained the facade of a struggling startup founder. The background conflict began 5 years ago when I refused the family mandate to pursue corporate law. You will never know stability, Anya, Dad had thundered, cutting off my trust fund access. You have substituted tangible value for code. Code doesn't pay a mortgage. My punishment was constant, quiet dismissal, punctuated by annual public humiliations. The current event trigger was the annual Vance & Associates Holiday Partner Reception, the primary social event of the year, held in the lavish ballroom of the city's oldest financial club. I was present only as a required piece of the family tableau, tolerated but expected to remain silent. The humiliation scene intensified as my Uncle Robert, a senior partner, joined my mother. Anya, dear, Robert said, his smile patronizing, I heard you're still working on that calendar tool. Our firm uses Outlook, you know. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best. You're overcomplicating your life. Synergy Dynamics is not a calendar tool, Uncle, I replied, forcing my attention away from my phone's critical notification. It's a quantum computing application designed to optimize global workforce distribution based on latency and localized skill sets. Robert laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. Ah, jargon! You have such a creative vocabulary, Anya, but can it generate a $600 billable hour? Because Marcus here just secured a $2 million contract extension using nothing but his brain and a standard legal brief. Marcus approached, the perfect embodiment of corporate success in his tailored suit. He didn't mock. He pitied. It's admirable, Anya, really, but Dad's right. You need to transition that ingenuity into a real-world asset. Let us invest in you, give you structure, pull you out of the digital air. Arthur finally spoke, his voice carrying the full weight of his disappointment. She doesn't want structure, Marcus. She wants freedom from responsibility. She confuses coding with substance. She will only learn the value of her degree when she finally has to liquidate that failing application and beg for an entry-level position. The words landed like lead. Liquidate that failing application. They believed my startup was on the verge of collapse. They believed the only inevitable outcome was my total humiliating surrender. But they were catastrophically wrong. The notification vibrating in my hand, the one that forced me to ignore their contempt, was the final signed closing document. The proof of worth revelation was now ready for release. For the past 4 months, Synergy Dynamics had been in quiet negotiations. The buyer was Kronos Global, a leading multinational technology conglomerate, and the final acquisition price was $50 million. I looked up from my phone, a cold surgical calm settling over me. The time for silence was over. Dad, Marcus, Uncle Robert, I began, my voice clear and carrying through the immediate circle of Vances. You're right about liquidation, and you're right about me needing to acknowledge the value of my degree. Arthur squinted at me, instantly suspicious. What drivel are you going to spin now, Anya? I smiled, a genuine, unburdened smile that held no malice, only triumphant finality. No spin, Arthur, only fact. You all seem concerned about my future and the financial viability of Synergy Dynamics. I am happy to announce that I have solved that problem definitively. I pulled a crisp, single sheet of paper from my clutch, the executive summary of the acquisition, and placed it on the dessert table. The Kronos Global logo was instantly recognizable. Synergy Dynamics was officially acquired by Kronos Global at 6 p.m. this evening, I stated, my gaze locking on my father. The final all-cash purchase price for 100% of the platform and intellectual property is $50 million. The air pressure dropped instantly. The sound of a dropped glass shattered the silence near the buffet. Arthur stumbled back half a step, clutching the edge of the table. He stared at the Kronos Global letterhead, then at the figure. His trained legal mind knew instantly that the document was genuine, and the scale was astronomical. 50 million, he whispered, the sound devoid of all authority. You sold that app for 50 million? Marcus snatched the paper, his face a horrifying mask of disbelief and raw envy. Kronos Global? They don't buy small startups. This can't be real, Anya. You fabricated this. No fabrication, Marcus, I countered. Only the logical, measurable return on the education you claimed I wasted. Synergy Dynamics was acquired because its quantum algorithm solved the scheduling problem that Kronos' own $100 million R&D department failed to crack. The turning of tables was complete and irreversible. My mother, Alara, started to cry, her tears a mix of sheer shock and terrifying social calculation. You knew tonight was important, Arthur roared, finally finding his voice not in pride but in betrayal. You waited until this precise moment to humiliate us. Why the secrecy, Anya? Why not tell your own family? You cut me off, Dad, I stated, allowing the full decade of resentment to sharpen my tone. You told me I could only find value in your structure. I waited until I could present a value so undeniable, so far beyond your measure, that you couldn't possibly spin it as anything less than total victory. You told me code doesn't pay a mortgage. I just proved it can buy your firm 5 times over. I paused, letting the magnitude of the $50 million figure settle into their minds, the value of the digital heir they had dismissed. I was no longer the struggling outcast. I was the financial sovereign. The collapse of the Vance family's narrative was total, witnessed by dozens of their most powerful peers and partners. The remainder of the reception dissolved into a frantic, chaotic scramble for information. Arthur and Marcus were immediately cornered by their competitors, who demanded to know why they had been so blind to the potential of a $50 million asset built by their own family. The humiliation was immediate, public, and absolute. Arthur dragged Alara and Marcus into a small, velvet-lined private room, demanding answers I was not willing to give. I followed them, my composure a steel shield against their raw panic. Anya, you must issue a statement immediately, Arthur pleaded, running a trembling hand through his white hair. You must state that Vance Legal Group consulted on the deal, that we mentored you, that we were integral to your success. I will issue a statement, Arthur, I confirmed, but it will detail the exact opposite. It will confirm that Synergy Dynamics was built with zero capital, zero mentoring, and zero support from the Vance family. It will confirm that the degree I hold was used precisely as intended, to build a system of measurable, undeniable value, entirely outside your structure. Marcus, the golden heir, slumped into a nearby chair, his ambition visibly deflating. Dad, we're ruined. Westlake just lost their primary target to Kronos. They're going to think we were involved, that we manipulated the information, that we're incompetent. I lost my promotion over this. Your promotion, Marcus, I replied, meeting his defeated gaze, was based on the illusion of stability. My sale is based on the reality of competence. You relied on the system. I built a new one. You chose to mock the future. I chose to own it. My mother, Alara, finally found her voice, high-pitched and hysterical. But the social cost, Anya. What will I tell the partners? What will I tell the club? That our daughter is a secret millionaire who allowed her own family to humiliate her for years? You will tell them the truth, Alara, I stated, standing over them. You will tell them that you valued an outdated corporate structure over your own daughter's ingenuity. You will tell them that you allowed your judgment to be clouded by arrogance, dismissing the only person in this family capable of generating this kind of wealth, and you will bear the social cost, because you earned it. I placed a legal envelope on the small table. This is a deed of trust, Arthur. I have liquidated my old apartment and purchased a small private office suite in the city, fully paid in cash. This deed is for the full transfer of the Vanguard Trust, the account you locked me out of 5 years ago. The amount in that trust is now insignificant to me. You may have it back. I no longer need your petty capital. The return of the trust was the final defining blow. It showed them that the wealth they guarded was meaningless to the wealth I generated. I left the private room, the sounds of their frantic, desperate whispering muffled by the heavy oak door. The reception was still ongoing, but I walked straight out, ignoring the renewed stares of the guests who now recognized me not as the outcast, but as the $50 million tech founder. The long-term consequences were immediate, structural, and financially crippling to the Vance family's professional identity. The fallout was not just about the money. It was about the fundamental, unfixable flaw in Arthur's professional judgment. The financial and professional consequence, Arthur and Marcus. The next morning, Arthur's desk was littered with the fallout. Vance Legal Group lost its two largest clients, both citing a significant loss of confidence in the firm's strategic competence following the Kronos Global news. The legal community realized that Arthur had been sitting on a goldmine, his daughter's company, and not only dismissed it, but actively disparaged it, proving he had no understanding of modern corporate valuation. Arthur tried desperately to leverage the firm's assets, but the firm's reputation was shattered. Within 3 months, he was forced to announce his retirement and the firm's sale. The buyer, Kronos Global, who acquired the residual assets of Vance Legal Group primarily for its real estate portfolio and its list of legacy contacts, using the money they had just paid me. Arthur's fate: he was stripped of his professional identity. He retired not with pride, but with shame, forced to watch his legacy be dismantled by the very market forces he had mocked. His final crushing blow was the forced sale of his personal yacht and his summer home to cover the firm's final obligations, assets he had always prized over my education. Marcus's fate. Marcus's career at Vance Legal Group ended when the firm was absorbed. He was offered a low-level, high-stress consulting role at the new Kronos Vance subsidiary, where his primary duty was managing digital transition compliance, the very work I had mastered. He had to accept the position, forced into a career where he reported to young managers who worshipped the algorithmic power I created. His punishment was professional subordination. The emotional consequence: Ilara and the family. Ilara's carefully constructed social world disintegrated. The annual holiday reception was canceled indefinitely. She tried to maintain face, telling friends that Anya had simply made a large investment in the family. But the truth was too visible. Her husband's collapse, Marcus's demotion, and my sudden, massive wealth contradicted her narrative too sharply. She lost her social currency and faded into bitter, wealthy obscurity. I used my acquisition funds to launch Synergy Ventures, a firm dedicated to funding and mentoring young founders, specifically those in non-traditional, often dismissed digital fields. The goal was to fund the digital heir of the future and ensure no talented mind was ever crushed by the outdated judgment of legacy power. 5 years after the acquisition, I hosted a quiet, exclusive event, the Synergy Ventures annual Founders Dinner, in the same financial club ballroom where I had been humiliated. The guests were young, brilliant, and digitally empowered. Arthur and Ilara were not invited. Marcus, now an external consultant seeking a contract with Synergy Ventures, requested a meeting. He came to my private office, a sleek, functional space that commanded a view of the entire city skyline, including the very city tower Arthur had tried to build. He sat across from me, a humbled, aging man in a suit that was too tight around the shoulders. "Anya," Marcus began, his voice rough with genuine regret. "I am here to apologize. Not the shallow apology I gave 5 years ago, but a real one. We were fools. We were arrogant. We were cruel. We wasted our own time and nearly ruined Dad's life, all because we couldn't comprehend value unless it came with a physical address and a 6-figure title." He reached into his briefcase and placed an old, tattered legal textbook on my desk, my old college textbook. "I know this doesn't matter, but I read your thesis, Anya. The one you wrote on the latency problem. I finally understand the genius of synergy dynamics. You weren't wasting your degree. You were using it to solve a problem that was simply beyond our comprehension." "Your apology is accepted, Marcus," I said, a soft final closure in my voice. "The truth is, I was always grateful you cut me off. It forced me to build a scale that couldn't be ignored." I gave him the contract he sought, a high-value, high-stress consulting role where he would be forced to adapt fully to the digital, remote ecosystem he once scorned. He was not earning a handout. He was earning a chance to evolve. The moral closure was absolute. Arthur had demanded I prove the worth of my degree by its financial return. I responded by using that degree to generate a return that dwarfed his entire career, forcing him to liquidate his legacy. I had taken the digital heir and converted it into the absolute, tangible power that purchased my unassailable freedom and defined the future of his entire lineage. My final act was the quiet, confident knowledge that the most valuable asset in the Vance family now, and forever, was the degree he claimed I had wasted.